Raised to the top of the Peace Tower, replacing the Canadian flag whenever the Queen's representative arrives on Parliament Hill. And as the Governor-General represents the head of state in this country when the Queen is not here, that is why her flag is atop the Peace Tower right now. So invited by the Guard Commander to inspect the Guard. Briskly, one assumes it is, chilly, not cold, but chilly on this day. As we're watching this, let me bring in our chief political correspondent, Keith Bogue, who is standing by just outside the Senate chamber in Ottawa. And Keith, you've heard the news about the Governor of the Bank of Canada's statement today that Canada seems to be heading towards a recession, given all the indicators, a change of mind on his part over just a period of a few weeks. In fact, when you think back to the middle of the election, a little more than a month ago, and the Prime Minister at one point saying the fundamentals look pretty sound for the Canadian economy, things have changed dramatically, not only in terms of the numbers, but in terms of what people are saying. What impact could Carney's statement have on what we're about to hear, do you think?
Well, I think that there's a feeling that the Bank of Canada has actually been behind the curve on this. I know that when they released their update on the fiscal forecast just a few weeks ago, it was so dramatically different from what they had said in the fall, or rather in the spring, that some economists were saying finally the Bank of Canada gets it too. They finally see the same economy that other economists in the private sector had been looking at for months. So in a sense, the Bank of Canada may just be catching up to where a lot of people have been for a lot longer. I think, though, that if your question is how much impact is the overall economic environment going to have all the way through to what's going on in the economy, there is a recognition that's the number one issue in the country today by a lot, and there's a recognition that because things have changed so much since the middle of the campaign and now, that even some of the things that were promised in the campaign are probably going to take a backseat to this new concern about what's going on with the economy.
Well, all this will be outlined by the Governor-General herself, who, as we watch her inspecting the Guard of Honour outside the Parliament buildings. And we should point out, because there's not just political junkies watching today, some students in different schools across the country getting their first glimpse of what happens in Parliament on the first day of a new Parliament, and this is exactly that, following the election from last month. Michaëlle Jean, the Governor-General, will read the speech from the throne, but Keith, as we all know, the speech not written by Michaëlle Jean, written by the Prime Minister's office. It is the Conservative government's idea of what the agenda is they want for the time ahead.
That's right, Peter. And, I was talking to them after the election about how much time they actually needed to prepare a throne speech. And the answer was not very much. And for the same reasons that they didn't have a lot of detail in their campaign platform, they feel that a government that has been in power for a while has already set a pretty clear direction. And so in the election campaign, they did not have a complete basket of new goods and ideas to offer to the public. And similarly, with this election, with this throne speech, rather, you'll see a reflection of the meagerness of that campaign platform, with the exception again of the economy. There has to be, for political reasons as well as substantive reasons, a lot of detail paid to a lot of attention paid, and with some detail to what's going on, not just to the economy generally, but to specific sectors in the economy. So I would expect to hear a lot of references to that.
Interesting to watch the pictures of the inspection of the Guard of Honour. Interesting because there's been so much of a focus, and not surprisingly so, on the armed forces, and specifically the Army section of the armed forces, because of the role in Afghanistan. But today you've got a Guard commander wearing a naval uniform, and you've got many members of the Air Force wing of the armed forces who are performing the role of the ceremonial guard today for the Governor-General's inspection. She seems to be taking a good amount of time chatting with the men and women of the Guard, stopping quite frequently. You see different ways these things are done. Sometimes they're done very quickly, where the Governor-General races down the lines, but Michaëlle Jean has always seemed to enjoy this part of it, actually talking to members in the Guard. Last year at one point, I think on the July 1st day, she even broke away from the main Guard, went over and started talking to members in the ceremonial band as well, which caught more than a few people by surprise. This part of throne speech day actually only takes about 15 or 20 minutes, and then it's inside for the main work of it. All members of Parliament, both from the Senate chamber, where the speech from the throne takes place, and the House of Commons will be in attendance in that room. There's a procedure which we'll walk you through when we get to it, of how the MPs, who are the members of Parliament in the House of Commons, are moved down towards the Senate to hear just what the Queen's representative has to say in terms of the government's agenda in the speech. And it's, you know, one of those few times, rare that we get a glimpse inside the Senate. No televised proceedings take place inside the Senate except on days like this, speeches from the throne. So you get a chance to see that chamber, which is spectacular in terms of the artwork that's in that building and just the whole way it's set up. In many ways it looks like the House of Commons, in many others, because of the spectacular nature of what's inside, it's quite different. So the Governor General finishing off what seems to be a lengthy inspection of the Guard of Honor, and she'll head back to that dais once again and be another a brief vice-regal salute before she heads inside the building. Now, she's going to keep that new tradition she started of also going over to see the band as well, and which I'm sure band members enjoy. They've been sort of at these events for years, and while everybody listens to them, nobody seems to pay that much attention to them in terms of going over to say hello. This Governor General making a difference on that front as she drops by to say hello to the band members as well. Let's bring Don Newman in as well, our senior parliamentary editor.
The speech, but whether it's still part of Indian and Northern affairs, I don't know.
All right, thanks, Don. We'll keep all of that in mind as we watch the speech, which is expected to run somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes, which is kind of the borders of the last two speeches from the throne of this government. Let's listen in now to the final vice-regal salute.
God honor, the forces Canadian, Salut Royal, Presente! Up!
And that should wrap it up for the inspection of the Guard of Honor, as the Governor General, now escorted by her aide-de-camp, heads up the stairs, the red carpet, into the main rotunda area beneath the Peace Tower, the center block on Parliament Hill. And as she arrives in that area, she'll be greeted by a number of the main dignitaries on a day like this, including the Prime Minister and his wife, Stephen and Lorraine Harper. And we're just waiting for access to those visuals from inside the Parliament buildings. Sometimes decorum requests a wait on that as we watch the Guard leave Parliament Hill. Their day is done. And here we go inside as the Governor General has gone up the stairs, and there she is meeting now with the Harpers. And next to Mrs. Harper, Marjorie Le Breton, the leader of the government in the Senate. That's the new Chief of the Defense Staff, General Walter Natinchuk. And the Commissioner of the RCMP, William Elliott. He's been on the job a couple of years now. He is the first non-member of the force to end up as Commissioner, and that's why he's not wearing a uniform. If you've been through the Parliament buildings, you know how spectacular this site is, the main rotunda area. the area of the Parliament buildings that separates one side, the House of Commons, from the Senate side. And it's towards the Senate now that the procession moves. Not heading in there yet. They have the opportunity to head to kind of a waiting room area for about 5 or 10 minutes before they head into the Senate, and then starts that procedure we were talking about, where the Senate basically invites the House of Commons members, elected by the people, to join them in the Senate, appointed by the government, to hear the speech from the throne. That's the only area where the Queen or her representative, in this case the Governor General, Michaëlle Jean, appears to speak. Looking like a rather solemn parade as they're heading towards that holding area just outside the Senate. And perhaps simply so pictures could be taken. Well, they were moving about as slow as the economy seems to be moving these days, according to the Governor of the Bank of Canada, and those will be some of the points that will be taken up, one assumes, inside the Senate chamber. And this is it. Remember, I was telling you a few minutes ago just how incredible it looks in this place. It really is, surrounded by these huge, great murals that have been painted, many of First World War battle scenes. Justices of the Supreme Court of Canada, who take center stage on a day like this. They are in the aisle between the two sides of the Senate, and it will be filled with many different guests, not just senators. You see them in the background there. On either side, it's separated Liberals and Conservatives and independent senators, but also many visiting dignitaries and invited guests. These are some of those great murals I've told you about, and they really are quite spectacular and quite the gift of the Canadian people, and it's rare that we get to see them. As we said, no normal televised proceedings take place inside the Senate, but when you get a chance to see them, kind of pulls on you to visit the place. It is a spectacular structure of the Parliament buildings. There's so many hidden gems in there, including these. These, you've probably heard about talk about vacancies in the Senate. There are, I think, at least 18 in the Senate right now. The Prime Minister hasn't been appointing senators. You know, he eventually wants an elected Senate. So that's a good job if you're looking for one. And I know many people are right now. Those are available. The senators get to sit like Art Eggleton there, former Liberal cabinet minister, now sits in the Senate. So we'll keep our eye on that. We're still a few minutes away from when the Governor General will be heading in. There's Mrs. Harper has got her seat inside the Senate chamber, and looking forward to seeing what her husband's government has to say through the Governor General about the agenda ahead. Romeo Dallaire, the well-known former general in the Canadian Armed Forces, now sitting as a senator. Let's check in with Susan Bonner, who has a special guest with her. In this Parliament, a lot of new members. Susan's found one of them. Here she is.
I'm with one of the new Conservative MPs.
About 3 weeks ago?
Man, you could be an economist, the way you deal with all that stuff.
I thought you and I were friends. Now you said something like that to me. After all these years, we've worked together.
I love your definition of a structural deficit. We're watching now the Governor General as she now heads towards the Senate chamber, followed by the Prime Minister, the Leader of the Government in the Senate, the Commissioner of the RCMP, and the Head of the Armed Forces. That is the official procession. The Senate is called to order as they arrive, and the process now begins for the reading of the speech from the throne. Governor General takes her chair. The Prime Minister will sit in that chair just to the side.
Veuillez be seated. Veuillez vous asseoir.
glaring, those empty seats, aren't they? Not because nobody wants to sit on them, but the decision has been made not to appoint senators, at least for the moment. That may change in the near future. The Speaker of the Senate now will ask that members of the House of Commons be brought down to the Senate.
Usher of the Black Rod, you will proceed to the House of Commons and acquaint that House that it is the pleasure of Her Excellency, the Governor-General, that they attend her immediately in the Senate chamber. Huissier de Bâton Noir.
Usher of the Black Rod, you will proceed to the House of Commons and acquaint that House that it is the pleasure of Her Excellency the Governor-General that they attend her immediately in the Senate chamber.
So the Speaker of the Senate, Noel Kinsella, has invited the Usher of the Black Rod. You see him there. His name's Kevin MacLeod. He was named just this May. It's a significant post in the way Parliament works. MacLeod spent 22 years in the Department of Canadian Heritage, and he ended up there as the Chief of Protocol, born in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. It will be his task now to convince members of the House of Commons. Down at the end of this long chamber, you'll get a glimpse of it as he heads down there, to head up to the Senate and occupy spots right at the bar there. They're not allowed onto the Senate floor. Some of them would love to get onto the Senate floor, be appointed into the Senate, but as the members of the House of Commons, they get to stand at a bar, which you'll see pulled across at the end of the Senate chamber, and they listen to the speech from the throne standing. So here's the gentleman usher of the Black Rod heading towards the House of Commons. The past floors of the Senate. And then once he goes through the rotunda area and heads toward the House of Commons, and you'll see the great paintings of former prime ministers. But here, still passing through the Senate area and now into the rotunda area. Great spot. We hosted 2-3 election nights from the Parliament buildings through the 1990s, and we use this as the backdrop. It's hard to miss with that as your background. Lonely job, Black Rod. He gets to march all by himself down to the House of Commons. And as we pick him up now, going through the hallway down towards the House of Commons, you'll see those pictures. There's King Campbell's painting on one side, Brian Mulroney, John Turner. Looking at these quickly and just grabbing Gloucester Pearson. Prime Minister, and there's Pierre Trudeau. Prime Minister, of course, Pearson, through that last great period of minority governments, 3 in the 1960s, 62, 63, and 65, and now we're heading into our third minority this time round, 2004, 06, and now 08. Now this is where as he passes Mackenzie King's painting, Black Rod will knock for entrance. Legend has it that Tony Orlando and Dawn were watching here one day and came up with their song, Knock 3 Times. But that's not true. This is the real deal. Well, it looks like somebody's hearing him on the other side, but they're having trouble opening. Here we go. So Black Rod will now enter the House of Commons chamber. Very different look inside the House of Commons. Green rug as opposed to the sort of royal red of the Senate. Green representing the common touch. These are the commoners elected by the people. So the people represented in this chamber on the decisions of the day.
Monsieur le Président, Message de Son Excellence, le Gouverneur Général. Mr. Speaker, message from Her Excellency, the Governor General.
Faites entrer le messager. Admit the messenger.
So that's the Sergeant at Arms, the House of Commons, asking the Speaker of the House of Commons, Peter Milliken, whether the messenger from the Senate, Black Rod, can be invited in to give his message from the Governor General. Peter Milliken, the Speaker there, just re-elected yesterday. He's had a bit of a run now as Speaker of the House of Commons. He's the MP from Kingston, Liberal MP. And this is the third Parliament now that he has been the Speaker in. So Black Rod will come in and give his message to the House of Commons, which once again is the invitation to head down to the Senate. Let's listen in on that.
Monsieur le Président, c'est le désir de Son Excellence le Gouverneur Général que cette honorable Chambre se rende immédiatement auprès d'elle, à la Chambre du Sénat. Mr. Speaker, it is the wish of Her Excellency the Governor General that this honorable chamber attend her immediately in the chamber of the Senate.
So message delivered. And the Speaker of the House of Commons puts on his hat, gloves, and they're heading for the walk down the hallway. This is one of those times you get to see all the MPs leaving House together, and it's a ceremonial day, so there's not a partisan nature to this walk, at least. You'll quite often see members from different sides of the House chatting amiably together as they head down to get the news. They've all got their new seating assignments since the last Parliament, and all the new members who are in attendance getting their first glimpse of where they'll be watching proceedings from. So it's an exciting day for the new members, and it's one of those days that the old members, I shouldn't call them old, but the veteran members always look forward to as well. And you see Michael Ignatieff on your, well, you saw him there for a moment, on your right, seeking once again to gain the leadership of the Liberal Party of Canada. John Baird, Tory Cabinet Minister. A lot of new faces, mixed with some veteran ones from all sides of the House of Commons.